You're listening to Wellness in Action, a podcast by Harvest House. Our goal is to help you understand the obstacles people face every day and what can be done to help these people move into a whole body version of wellness and go from surviving to thriving.
Welcome to episode 2 of Wellness in Action. This month, CEO Carol Murphy returns with one of our board members, Joe Somma, to talk all about the Baby and Children's Ministry. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you guys for coming and recording this with me. And I'm just going to kickstart the conversation here. Why do we care so much about baby clothes?
Well, you got 17,000 children on the east side that live in poverty. It's, you got that. I'm sure for Carol and for me, you go back to Matthew 24 and you say, isn't that what I'm supposed to do if I'm faithful? So it's, I hate to describe it this way, but it's an easy target. It's a need that is there. It's huge, and if we do it right, it's an immediate effect.
And I look at it from kind of twofold. Number one, it's important for us to help those most in need. And the thought of children living without coats, hats, boots, gloves, the basic things, that's expensive. When Gary and Linda first started, the tattoos first started Harvest House, they didn't really know what they would be called to do. And people came and started leaving baby clothes and things on the steps. And they said, well, the community must be, telling us that there's a need here. Let's start the Baby and Children's Ministry. So it started way back, more than 30 years ago. When the community came to us, it's very important that we take that community lead at Harvest House. And you can say, well, it's just clothes, or it's just coats, or it's just educational toys, but it's so much more than that. Our Baby and Children's Ministry is the place where the community comes to connect, and to connect with us, and to connect with other resources. They may be coming in for clothes for their children, but then they find out that we have a housing program that can help them if they're not in a safe housing situation. We have a education workforce development program for moms and dads who need a job that will give them a higher wage so that they can support their families. They may not have medical or dental care. And so we're saying, let's bring all of the pieces together. And maybe the Baby and Children's Ministry is that entry point, right? And that place where families and caregivers can come to say, here's what's going on in the community. How can we help? So the flip side of that is we hear from moms and dads and caregivers, grandmas and grandpas all over Western New York who say, my kids have outgrown all of these clothes, but I want to give them to someone that will get them into the hands of children most in need. I don't know how to do that. Harvest House is here. We know how to do that. We know how to get those clothes into the hands of children. Quick little story and why it's so important for kids to have clothes. We had a mom come in. She had 2 boys. They were twins, and 1 pair of shoes for them. And the school was saying, what's going on? The boys are coming every other day. Well, the boys were only going to school every other day because they didn't have 2 pair of shoes. I mean, something that simple can keep a child from being in school on a daily basis. So we have teachers and pastors and community members who say to the moms, you will be treated with dignity and respect. You will get all of the things that you need for your children so that they can not just survive, but thrive. So I think it's really important for us to remember some of us have a lot and we can give back. And this is a really good way to help lift a community.
It's always interesting when I go out and speak to, people at my church or just people in general saying, oh, I'm involved with Harvest House, and I tell them that, we use these clothes. We don't sell them back to the community. They come in here, we make sure that they're in good shape, they're clean. We, display them in a very dignified manner so that if you're going to come in, you feel good about shopping, literally shopping at, like you would be at a store, for these items. I can't think of a better way that we can help the community. We respond to a need. We do it in a dignified manner.
Yeah, and on that point, just because not everybody's as familiar with it, Carol, do you mind kind of in a more, step-by-step way, kind of explaining what happens when someone comes here for the Baby and Children's Ministry? What do they come in with? What do they walk out with? What does that process look like?
So it's really, we've tried to make it as simple as possible and not set up barriers to support. So people will refer folks. We have over 200 referring agencies, all of those not-for-profits in Western New York refer to our baby ministry. We are the largest of all of the baby ministries. We also get referrals from Family Court, from the Department of Social Services, from schools, teachers. So people will call us and they'll say, I need clothes for my children, and we will make an appointment for them so that they can come in. We're making appointments now so that everybody who comes in not only gets clothes for their children, they also get that time, that support with either a volunteer or a
Right.
staff member who says, do you also have a safe place to live, and that kind of thing. So make an appointment, they come in, they bring their children's benefit card. That's how we know that the children are living below the poverty level.
Mm-hmm.
And then they select a week's worth of clothes for every child: coats, hats, boots, gloves, educational toys. You think, oh, toys, why is that important? Well, we have worked with some of the folks from Fisher-Price, and they tell us that children who do not have access to educational toys, when they start preschool, they're at a great disadvantage over the children who have. So we've all got those educational toys at home. We have 2 volunteers from Fisher-Price who come in and they make sure that they all have batteries and that they're all safe, that kind of thing. Parents can also collect if they need a safe crib for their child, a car seat. We try anything that we get in, we give right back out to the community. And it's important because that's kind of the first step to all of the other pieces that a child needs to be whole, right? Let's make sure they have the clothes to go to school. Let's make sure they have those educational tools early in their lives so that when they go to school, so they get lots of stuff. They leave with lots of stuff. And oftentimes, I will tell you, moms bring back the things that their children have grown out of to get to the next size. And so it's the circular economy. What we're doing is we're reusing. We're not just throwing our children's things out. We're saying, okay, what child needs this next, and how can we reuse and recycle those things that are still good instead of sending them to the landfill.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, do you have anything to add on that? No, you're not here every day, like
No,
Carol,
but a little story. I was here one day dropping off some donations, and I literally was here for the better part of the day. So I dropped the donations off in the morning, one being a very nice portable crib. And that afternoon, I noticed that the crib was on its way out the door. Yeah, it had been processed. The family had taken a look at it. It was a good feeling to me to know, here it goes.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to a family. It's going to be used, and it served the family who had donated quite well, and it was just good to see.
So donors bring things to us Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, and we have a navigator who meets them at the door, and they donate those items, and then we take them into the back, and we have volunteers from all over Western New York. I will add lots of churches, lots of community groups, M&T Bank, they're fabulous. They're always sending their volunteers down to us. They'll help us sort those clothes. Are they in good shape? Are they clean? Do they meet the needs of the family? And then once the volunteers have kind of gone through things, we'll put them out and they'll go right back out the door. So right now we have clothes for fall and winter. The children come twice a year. I don't think I mentioned that. They come twice a year, once for fall and winter and once for spring and summer. So we get to know the families and they get to know us, and we love to watch the kids grow, you know, and they grow and they grow. But, you know, it has become such a community effort that it's like coming to, you know, for both the donors and the caregivers in need. It's that place where they know that the items are going to a good place, and those who are picking up the items know that it's quality. It's not, you know, they're not getting dirty or soiled or torn items. So we're very particular about that. The volunteers are always saying, would I give this to my grandchild, right? And if the answer is no, then
It doesn't go.
Yeah, it doesn't go, and it gets used for rags and things. We donate that forward. But everything gets used one way or another.
Yeah, I've been with 3 groups now. From my church, St. Paul's Lutheran over in Williamsville, the Narden Academy, and Boy Scout Troop number 92. Each of those groups, when they were done, their first question to me was, "When can I come back?
Yeah.
You know, I want to do this. I want to do this again."
Well, Joe, you're so right. I think we all want to make a difference,
Yeah.
right? But we don't always know what we can do. Right. And, you know, it's easy because you can say, I have Mondays from noon to 3 available. What can I do, you know, to help you? And I think people love that sense of, I know there are issues in the world. I want to be part of making a difference. And we feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, and that's great. Have all these stories from volunteers and each other, and I just wanted to zero in back on the problem itself, just because not that numbers are that important, but when you put numbers to something, it helps people realize kind of how real it is. And both of you brought up the amount of children living at or under the poverty line.
So 50%, almost 50% of the children living on the east side of Buffalo are living below the poverty level. Mm-hmm. When we're doing our changeover, we will see 700 children a month. That's a lot of clothes. If every child is getting a week's worth of clothing, that's a lot of clothes that we need to be able to care for those kids. And the statistics show that their families, you know, it's not just the children living in poverty, it's the community that lives in poverty. So they also need help with, you know, other things like housing and health care. Immunizations are really a big deal right now. If you're living below the poverty level and rely on a Medicaid provider, the waits can be really long for things like immunizations and
this goes
physicals,
back to the clothing.
right?
You can't go to school without certain
Can't go to school without those things. So last fall, we had a lot of our both medical providers and our parents coming to us and saying, can you be part of helping? Can you bring your community of caregivers, right, together? Because, I can't get in to see our doctor until January for my child's physical and immunization. What that means is that child is not going to school from September to January. So we got together with our medical providers who are volunteers at Harvest House, and we talked with our friends at the Erie County Department of Health, and they said, we'll do the immunizations if you guys can do the physicals. And we had a full day where people just brought their kids in, and we got all of that done for them. And it's just the carryover that isn't already being taken care of by the providers who are in place. So at Harvest House, we're always asking the community, what are the needs? How can we help to close the safety net? Maybe not permanently. Maybe it's just a pop-up a couple of times a year. So we're constantly looking at what's happening in the community, listening, having our community say to us, can you bring some helpers in, find the helpers for us and help us address this issue. We work with the block clubs. We work with everyone that comes in. We're constantly doing focus groups. We have volunteers and staff asking questions, how did you get here today? What does your day look like? What are some of the things that are keeping you from getting back into the workforce? And then we come together as a team and we look at the bigger picture. So, we go back to that first question. It's just about handing out clothes. Oh no, it's so much more than that. Every area that we serve is served with intention. Is anyone better off for us being here? And how have we been able to help this community become more sustainable? And that's really our goal. We just utilize clothes and immunizations and physicals as kind of the jumping off point. Yeah, absolutely. To community building.
But to put some numbers to it, because Carol knows I love numbers. Let's think of a family of two, a mom or a dad and one child. What are they making? What are they living on? So you think, well, if I look at the statistic, that's $22,000. If I throw on top of that the child benefits, that I may be able to pump that up to $28,000. How do I live on $28,000 a year? The average rent is anywhere from $700 to $1,200, dollars. On top of that, if I was getting SNAP benefits, those have been reduced by almost $1,200 a year for a family of that.
Not to mention they only apply to certain things, and in communities like this, there are limited food options, a lot of which are fast food, which SNAP doesn't apply to.
If that child is 3 or younger, I can't go and buy diapers and wipes and all the other stuff that I need. And then, God forbid, those are the more daily kinds of things that I need. What do I do about the one-time purchases, cribs, strollers, car seats? That's a lot of money to lay out. So here we try to say, we'll try to figure that out with you. We'll try to bring in those supplies and get you started. But that's the rock that they're trying to lift up and walk up that hill. I can't imagine. To this day, I do not understand how somebody does that. And even you say, well, how about a family of four, two parents, two kids, right? With benefits and the child credits, $35,000 a year. How do you do that? And again, for them, the SNAP benefits have actually been reduced by about $2,400.
So the numbers don't work. Bottom line,
right.
We have a team of people who look at the statistics, at the reality of it all, right? And for the most part, we're working with families who are your working poor. They are they're out there in the community, they're working hard, but just the cost of survival. So many of our clients are paying well over the suggested 30% of their income for their housing. So, you start to jot down the basics, and there just isn't anything left behind for food and clothing and transportation. Childcare is so expensive. And so, families are saying, well, do I just quit work? I mean, if that's the only way to survive is to be on welfare, which I'm telling you right now does not provide you with a good income. So I think what we need to be doing as organizations like Harvest House is helping the community to bring resources together, bring the partners together. We have volunteers who are doctors and dentists and nurses and statisticians. And, we bring this intellectual group of people who say, I want to help solve this issue of poverty. How can we work together as a community to take the resources? And I often say, everybody throw their, $1.50 in the middle of the table, and let's spend it all together. And we can we can do more if we come together with resources. And I guess that's really what we're trying to do to help relieve some of these really serious statistics in our community. I'll give you another statistic. We are seeing more and more women who are coming into our baby and children's ministry. They are 8-9 months pregnant, and they have not had any prenatal care. And then, I'm meeting with the heads of the Department of Health Equity, and they're saying, Buffalo's east side, we have a much higher incidence of infant mortality, children being born, also with low birth weights. We have also a higher incidence of children being born with chronic illnesses that could have been supported earlier if that mother had had prenatal care. So we go to the mothers and we say, are you connected to a doctor? Well, no, I was just going to go in when I went into labor. And we say, we have an agency here, one of our partners, who can help you connect to those prenatal, perinatal resources so that both you and your child can be healthy. And that's where those partnerships, those really important, and that education for the moms, I think, is so very important to helping us to really attack some of these bigger issues in the community.
I'm going to steal one of Carol's favorite lines before she says it. Harvest House is a wellness ecosystem. You come in, and it's not just a one-off. It is, as Carol has so elegantly described, it is a network of services that you can take advantage of, all targeting to help you lift yourself up.
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry,
I see why you
That's
stole
okay.
that
You
from
can
her.
do that.
That's great. I might have to steal that from her too. Yeah, and I did want to switch gears just a little bit to kind of what we've been able to achieve with this program. So I pulled up our 2024 stats. And we, with just the baby and children's ministry, we have calculated an economic impact of $2.7 million. So
Joe and his geniuses. So Joe is by trade a geek, a statistician geek, for many years. Yes, and he sits down with the team and he says, "Okay, let's take a look at this. We took the bags that you would get per child, and we went out and we valued those at consignment prices." And so we were able to say, okay, of the X number of children who come here, they leave with about $350 worth of consignment things. So you multiply that by the number of children that we see, and you get that economic impact into the east side of Buffalo. Joe does that with each one of our areas: housing, medical care, dental care. And they look at everything in a little different way. You know, we're looking at our New Hope Education Center, the amount of money that people were making before they got their training certificates, the money that they're making now, what is that economic impact? And so I sat back and I let them do, you know, take their computers and do all of that. And they came up with a $44 million economic impact to the east side of Buffalo. And that's Harvest House and all of the partners that we have. We have more than 20 partner agencies that are in our building, some once a week, some, you know, daily. But those partners that we've been able to bring into the east side, we have a very modest budget. But we're able to take that budget and utilizing our volunteers, our volunteer doctors and dentists and legal experts and all of those folks who volunteer for us. And we're able to put a lot of money into the east side of Buffalo, in addition to the money that we get from grants and, you know, our individual donors who are like the most important thing to us.
Yeah, and those estimates of the money coming back into the community are probably on the conservative side, because we try very hard not to make the argument that somebody's going to look at and say, "Oh, this is a little specious," because then it's going to ruin all the other analysis. So we stay very close to just the way Carol has described it. But think of the baby and children's ministry again. If I'm giving a mom or a family enough supplies that their child can go to daycare, and now all of a sudden I can go to work if I wasn't working before, or I can finish my education, there's that projected effect that's going to have.
It opens potential.
Yep, exactly.
It opens the door. So I struggle with this a little bit because we have to show as a business that we're taking the funds that are given to us from our individual donors and our funders, and that we're spending that very carefully. I tell people all the time, if you're going to give money to an organization, look up Charity Navigator first. Yeah. Charity Navigator will tell you how much of that not-for-profit spending is on direct programs and then administrative. And at Harvest House, we have a rating of, it goes between 96 and 97%, which means every dollar that we get, 96 to 97 cents goes straight back into the community through our programs. That's really important to me, to be fiscally responsible. But I'm also a mom. I have kids. To me, the most important work that we do here is helping other parents and children to be able to care for their own children. We will see, we will have victims of domestic violence come to us, and they've lost everything, or they lost everything in a fire, and they're just empty. And so I often say the baby and children's ministry is the first place that we go, and I'll say to someone who is in crisis, I'll say, come with me to the baby ministry. Let's get your kids some clothes. And that's that first little step of feeling like, okay, I've got some control back, right? It's so important when someone's in crisis to start small because it can feel so overwhelming. I think that's the most important work that we do. And we have a team of just incredible caregivers who feel called to the work that we do. And really want to make sure that people who are coming here are treated with kindness and respect. We don't know what's going on in the background, but we want them to know that this is a safe space and that we can help them pick those pieces back up again. And that's really important work.
All right. So now we're going to shift gears again, and I want to talk specifically about the baby shower event that we have running through the month of September, which is kind of your brainchild. So less the practicals of it, but what inspired you to, go that extra step, try to get more people involved?
It was all the results of a focus group. We sat down with some of the folks over at Baby and Children's Ministry, and we said, "What's your biggest problem? Like, what stops you from doing the job that you think you should be doing?" And they said, "Supplies. It's hard to get people in the suburbs to come to, here, because there's other locations that they can sort of drop stuff off at. So it just makes it a little bit more difficult." So we said, well, let's reverse this then, and talk to Pastor Ashlyn over at St. Paul's. She talked to some of her cohorts, and the very first effort was 5 churches, like St. Paul's, Trinity Lutheran, Old Trinity, Lord of Life, and Lord help me, I'm forgetting the 5th one. And it was a good effort. Not a great effort, but a good effort. Last year, we said, let's see if we can't make this ecumenical. And we ended up with 19 churches and organizations. Everybody from the Western New York Muslim Association, who gave us an enormous amount of stuff, Tops Markets, who each year, their whole goal was to overwhelm us. And then
The
we
big
had
truck. Don't forget the big truck.
That's right. We have a gentleman who saw Carol and Pastor Ashlyn on Channel 4 and called us up and said, "I want to be part of that." And every year now has, so it's Express Logistics out of Niagara Falls. He provides, transportation. So last year we were at about 18-20 organizations. This year, I just did the count on the list. We have 37 churches and organizations.
Schools.
4 high schools this year are going to get involved. Now, see if I can remember these: Cheektowaga, Maryvale, City Honors, and come on, Joe. Cheektowaga, City Honors. I'm pulling that one.
That's okay. He can edit that.
Yeah. It's there. It's on the website. No need to list all 37.
No, don't ask me to do that.
Oh my goodness. Who else? We have.
Well, this year we have K-Love coming to report on it. They're already broadcasting the availability of the baby shower nationally.
This is huge for us. I mean, we're going national with our Baby and Children's Ministry. They called us and they said, we're coming into we've just come into the East Coast community, and we heard about the Harvest House Baby Shower, and we would like to come and really help you guys promote the really good work that you're doing. So it's 102.5 here in Buffalo, and they're coming in and they're going to help us launch this thing. They're going to make sure everybody knows what we're doing and why it's important that we do it. And it's just, I don't know, I'm a little worried, but the more we have, the more we can do.
Yeah.
And I think there are people all over Western New York that, we can reach out to and say, here's a really important group of people that are doing really important work. And so you may not have children and you may not have clothes for children. But you can give a gift of money that will help us. We buy cribs for kids at a huge discount. We can buy diapers. We can buy formula. All of the pieces and parts that go into, I always tease, we use more zip ties around here to, you can imagine. But it's important that we have the supplies and the resources that we need to do this Herculean effort with volunteers and a very small staff. So I think that will help us to really make sure that no child is left without and that all of those parents that are in such need can find a safe spot here within all of our program areas.
So if you want to participate in the baby shower, there's really 3 things that you can do. You can donate. There's a website on the Harvest House page. It gives you all the information, all the types of things that we need. There's an Amazon shopping list. You can just donate money, and it'll be used to buy cribs and other sources.
Underwear and socks. Yeah. We need underwear and socks.
If you're feeling
those need to be new.
If you're feeling lucky, you can participate in the raffle.
Oh yeah.
So there's a chance to win tickets to the Bills versus New England on October 5th. There are tickets to the Sabres, any game that is any regular season game that you want. There's that.
Get them early.
Get them early.
Yeah. There's a gift certificate to Black and Blue Restaurant. There's a guided tour, a personal descent at the Darwin Martin House, and a gift certificate to Capella's salon. The 2 big tickets, the Sabres and the Bills. The Bills tickets were donated by Gerald Kelly, who's a longtime supporter of Harvest House, and the Sabres tickets were donated.
He's one of our guardian angels.
Yes, by David Johnston, who sort of works in the background. He helps me wrangle donors.
So this is all happening the month of September. And then in October, the big truck will go to each of the community areas throughout Western New York, and they'll pick up the donations. You don't have to be part of the church to make a donation. You can just drop things off, take a look at our website. There's a list of the churches throughout Western New York that will be receiving items. And then the big truck will do its job and bring things in here, and we will get a ton of volunteers to come in and help us to organize everything, and then to make sure that we take care of all those families throughout the year. So this will help us with all of the things that we need for a full year. Right. Last year we had one room that we called Diaper Mountain. It was just a huge, and it's gone. There's no mountain left. There's not even a hill anymore. So, that's what happens though, is we get a large room that we're able to sort and organize, and then we move those into the baby ministry as the community needs them.
We have a 30-foot tractor trailer, and last year we almost filled it up. The goal this year is to make that thing bulge. So that it is.
Careful what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for.
My secret is I have Boy Scout troop number 92 to help me load. They're phenomenal, and so they'll come down and they'll put their hands to work, and off we go.
So one more thing I want to mention about our website is you can go onto the website, take a look, but share our website with others that you think might be, we did that last year. And, moms who were at home who said, oh, I'm going to donate. I've got an attic full of my kids' clothes. I need to, get them into the hands of other kids. But they shared, we had like 900 shares to all the other mothers. I mean, Mothers Networks, nothing like them, right? Those moms, they know how to communicate. So share that information with the community, because we're going to have those needs year round. So even if you don't have any kids this month, you may be 9 months pregnant and you'll be surprised at how quickly your children outgrow their clothes.
Or use diapers.
Or diapers, or, it's just, I think as we grow our community, it's just so wonderful to see how much more we can contribute.
Yep.
And we talk about the east side of Buffalo, but not only is it a very poor community, but there aren't a lot of resources here. We are in a food desert here. And by that I mean there's one grocery store, one large grocery store. There are other smaller stores, but it's very hard to make your dollar go a long way if you can't get things in bulk or buy in bulk. So, things like Harvest House are so, organizations like Harvest House coming together with other agencies that care for children and families, help us to bring resources into the east side that aren't there.
A couple of numbers to keep in mind. There's 1,000 children per square mile who live in poverty here on the east side. Buffalo has 699. So there's the disparity right there. As soon as
Per
you get
mile.
down to the east side,
Yeah.
per square mile. If you look at Erie County, the east side has the unfortunate ranking of number 1 in poverty. If you say, well, let me take that nationally, what happens nationally? We're on a par with poor sections in Cleveland and Detroit. So there's a need here, and we do, as people living in Erie County, have the capacity to work on this, and this is a program that will give you that venue to work on ending not ending, but ameliorating poverty.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on the podcast and really kind of just shedding the light on how broad and how important this issue is. It's not just clothes. And really showing and kind of proving that we, all of us, everybody can make a difference, especially locally. And thank you for listening to the second episode of Wellness in Action. If you have any interest in supporting this mission, you can go to harvesthousebuffalo.org, and you can stay up to date with the giveaway and everything else we're up to by signing up for our newsletter, following us over on Facebook and Instagram, and you will be able to find the links to everything in the description of this video. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next month for another episode of Wellness in Action.